friends, today I'm doing a June TBR I'm pretty excited about. I'm not going to be using my normal board because I'm going to be doing Big Book Summer. So I made myself just this little sheet here. My requirements are my books have to be 500 pages or more, or 12 hours of audio. 12 hours is probably not quite the same as a 500-page book, but I'm gonna go with it. So I didn't really know how many books my goal was gonna be, so I just ended up using every felt tip marker I had. I do have some small book slides in there just to help me get through, but hopefully over 2 months you'll see me make my way along this. Now, if I wanted to get through every prompt on this sheet, it would be quite a few books. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to read the prompts because I can't imagine a way that looking at this paper over and over again is going to be entertaining for you. So bear with me. Okay, my first prompt is 5-star prediction. And I have already started this book. In fact, I'm almost done with this book. It is Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This is book number 3 in Mistborn Era 1. I read book 1 and book 2 quite a while ago. I always give a lot of space between my books when I read series. I don't have a real reason for that. It's just the way I read. And so going into book 3, I was pretty confident that I remembered everything and was able to just jump right back in. I can't really tell you much about this, but I can tell you that a lot of my favorite characters are back and they're battling some very a lot of internal conflict in book number 3, and I'm here for it. I'm excited to see how it ends. I think I'm on book page 600 out of like 700, so definitely making progress. Prompt number 2 is an LGBTQIA prompt because it is Pride Month. Happy Pride. And for this, I am listening to In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. This is about 15 hours, a little bit over 15 hours. And I don't speed up my audiobooks that much. I usually range between like 1.3 and 1.5. Fortunately, though, I am on summer break. So I have some opportunity to actually get some real good listening in. This is a Pinocchio retelling with robots instead of puppets, and I'm about halfway through. So far, really loving it. Very different than House on the Cerulean Sea, but you can get the underlying TJ Klune feel that you know and love if that's something you're looking for. I can tell you already that this is definitely going to be a darker book than House on the Cerulean Sea, and I actually listened to a podcast done by Libro FM where they interviewed TJ Klune, and he said it was kind of a way for him to bridge some of his lighter works with his darker works. So I have realized upon listening that Pinocchio was never one of my favorite books. I am enjoying it for the story itself, but anytime it gets a little bit too Pinocchio, I almost get a little bit weirded out for some reason, because Pinocchio used to honestly terrify me. So yeah, we'll see how I feel by the end of this book. Prompt number 3 is a series. I have 1 book left in, and I was very excited for this. As I was trying to pick books, I realized that I don't have as many books over 500 pages as I thought. Or maybe it was just that the ones I was like hoping to get on this list weren't over 500 pages. A lot of them were very close. This one, however, was 642. And that's A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. I love the covers of these. The red really pops on all 3 of the covers. Also, I'm redoing my bookshelf to make it more rainbow, if that's even possible, but that's why we're in front of a different background today. These I've read pretty recently, book 1 and book 2, really enjoyed them. I'm interested to see how this all wraps up. I really love Kel and Delilah, 2 of the main characters, and there's just enough of a romance like little sprinkled in that I just adore it. And the magic is pretty cool. I'm really interested to see how the magic develops in this last book, because you can definitely see some progression happening. I really want to see how kind of that big bad villain comes into play here, because I feel like it could be done really well, but it's also maybe more of an ambiguous villain. I don't even know if that makes sense. Prompt number 4, people on the cover. I made this prompt and I should have known myself a little bit better. I don't generally go for books with people on the cover for whatever reason. I do have quite a few, but most of them I've already read. I did choose one, and it's one of the ones on this list that makes me a little bit more nervous because I have not read a book in this series in so long. I've reread the first one several times, and I remember where things were, but this is book number 5, and it's a chunker. This is Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I loved Throne of Glass. I loved book 2, and then book 3, one of the romances I really enjoyed, fell apart. Still was a fan though. Book 4, interesting things happened, but I felt like the vibe of the whole series was switching, and it just had me hesitant. And so I just never continued. If I wanted kind of to go back and love this series, I did that by rereading book 1 instead of moving on in this series. But I think it's time. I have to give this writer her dues because I've read a lot of her other works and enjoyed all of them. I have not finished any of her series though. I've read 2 books in the Court of Thorns and Roses. I've just read the first book in the Crescent series, and I love them all. For whatever reason, I'm just worried about the pairings in all of them, and so I just never finish any of the books, but I'm gonna move forward. It is time. The next prompt is kind of the opposite. This is first book in a series, and one of my goals was to read The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. I hear that he is the king of grimdark, and I want to see if grimdark and I get along. I feel like I've read grimdark before, but sometimes it's hard for me to tell if a book is grimdark because I feel like that can be a term that's thrown out there sometimes when it isn't. I don't actually know what this book is about, and on the back it doesn't give like synopsis, it just gives reviews. So I'm going in probably more blind than usual. Also, I just opened this for like the first time. That is intense. That's an intense choice for a cover. Our next 2 prompts are interesting, or led to interesting results, maybe is what I should say. The first one is vlog, and I have book boxes that come with little gifts sprinkled in as you read, and I picked a random one. It's not 500 pages, but I feel like it's close enough. It's 461. It is called Deep in Providence by Riss Nielsen. This is also a YA magical realism book, which was not my favorite last time. It was definitely a good read, the last box that I had. I'm still a little wary. I'm excited though. The gift part of this was really fun and definitely added to the reading experience. I was kind of using them as check marks trying to get to that spot and found it a good stopping point. The synopsis for this one is about a group of girls who have a little bit of magic, and one of their friends is killed by a drunk driver. They get together to try and use magic to bring their friend Jasmine back, and it really tests the limits of their powers. It also probably does not go as planned, would be my guess. It has a very beautiful cover. I will say this box does put a sticker on. I haven't tried to remove the sticker, so I don't know how easy that comes off, but I hate when people put a sticker on the cover. I think we're 7 books in, and it's going to be another audiobook for this one. The prompt is Dad's Choice. For Father's Day, my dad asked that all of us kids read or listen to Outlive the Science of Longevity. I have not looked into this at all. It's not probably my usual type, but I really love the idea of all of us reading it together. I don't do a lot of book clubs with my family. I read a lot of the same books as my sister, but my brother and my dad lean more towards nonfiction. I've gotten a lot of good nonfiction recommendations from my brother. Hopefully, as I start to kind of tackle my physical TBR, I can start adding more of those in and kind of bridge the gap between our 2 reading styles, because I feel like when I read nonfiction, I tend to really enjoy it. I trust my brother and my dad to give me some solid choices, so this will be book number 7. Prompt number 8 is to read a book from my 2023 goals. I do have a video up that you can go check out. I focus on a few different categories. Series, I have 1 book left, series that I want to start, classics, and then outside of reading goals, things like trying to pre-order books or finish a specific book. One of those overarching goals is a series that I want to make progress in. And of course, Wheel of Time is on that list. I mean, how can it not be? I would be reading book number 10, Crossroads of Twilight by Robert Jordan. I don't even really know how to tell you about this series. It's very epic. It has to do with the end of the world, darkness coming, and a group that's trying to stop it. But because they're all kind of teens and young adults, they also want their freedoms, and so they're kind of resisting their destiny a little bit in the first few books, and then really hot-headedly taking on their destinies with probably authority that they haven't fully earned in the later books. And there's so many strong and powerful characters in this series that I do tab these books to try and just keep track of everything. I've liked every book so far. Some have been better than others. I think the epicness of this and the storytelling that has come across in these books so far makes it a worthy series for sure. I have another prompt for favorite author, and there are quite a few I could have chosen from. I really love Becky Chambers, but the only book I have left from her right now is like a novella, so that's not gonna work. And Talia Hibbert had a lot of good romances, but they were all under the 12-hour mark, unfortunately. So I was really struggling for a bit and came up with Terry Pratchett. I've been following along with the Guards series so far, but I think this is also the 5th book. It's called The Fifth Elephant, which has me wondering if I'm just thinking it's a 5th book because that word is in the title, or if it aligns that way on purpose. I don't know. I was going to pick this up for something else and then realized it was only 470 pages, but the audiobook is over 12 hours, 13 hours and 50 minutes. So I'm kind of cheating and gonna use this as an audiobook so that I can squeeze it in. It says, Sam Vines is on the run. Yesterday he was an ambassador, but now he has nothing but his native wits and the gloomy trousers of Uncle Vanya. I feel like this I've heard there's one where they time travel, and I think this might be the one. Guards is a great series. It has incredible characters. It makes a lot of really good, thought-provoking points in a satirical environment and somehow pulls it off. So if you have not picked up the Guards series, I definitely recommend it. Okay, I'm on to my first small book slide. I picked a graphic novel. It's actually pretty chunky as far as graphic novels go, but I'm hoping I will still be able to breeze through it. This is The Adventure Zone, The 11th Hour. This follows 3 brothers as they play D&D, and this specific arc has to do with almost like a Groundhog Day scenario where they keep reliving the same day, and they're trying to obviously solve a puzzle, save the world, get out of time loop. You learn a lot about the characters' backstories. I think Taco specifically in this one. And I remember really loving the depth that this kind of took on. I feel like this is when the campaign that they were running really felt like you could start to see the overarching plots, the fact that it wasn't just single modules anymore. It was really becoming a whole story. Really love the art style. You can see some of the characters. It's beautiful colors. 3 books left, and I don't have these last 3, but the first prompt is a memoir. I had a book in mind for this, and then it wasn't 500 pages. But then I remembered that Spare is on Libro FM, so that'll be my 3rd audiobook, hopefully. If you haven't heard about this audiobook, I'm surprised because I feel like the royal family has been in the news, and Meghan Markle and Harry have been in the news quite a bit. So I've heard this is really good. I'm interested to read it and just kind of do some more research on the topic. Okay, here's probably the one that made me the most angry because I did a prompt for a blue book, and I have 3 full shelves dedicated to blue books and then some extra. I have a ton of blue books. They were either too small or I had already read them. There were no blue books that I own There were over 500 pages that I haven't read yet. I was so disappointed. But I am going to be getting a Kindle version of Gemina, the second book in the Illuminae. I don't know if it's Illuminae Chronicles, but I read Illuminae and really had a fun time with just the creative way of the pages were laid out. They did like words with pictures and different file types and all that kind of stuff. And it really made the reading experience enjoyable. I think the creativity definitely enhanced the story. And I'm excited to see if book 2 follows that same format, because I really haven't done much digging into this series at all. I had a prompt for first book in a series and last book in a series, so this next one is middle book in a series, and I'm gonna go with Red Seas Under Red Skies. I listened to The Lies of Lachlan Mora on audiobook and just loved it. I probably will do this one with a Kindle version, because I do already have 3 audiobooks for this month, but it'll just kind of depend on where I end up. To be honest, I don't think I'm gonna get to this point in the list either way. This is kind of the halfway list if I'm looking at all of the prompts that I made, but the reality is I'll probably get to Wheel of Time, maybe not even that. But I'm going to start July wherever I stop in June, so I think this will still be when I get to this summer. We'll just have to wait and see. I really loved The Lies of Lachlan Mora. I loved the main character, and it was one you wanted to root for him, even though the dominoes just kind of kept falling. I think it just felt unique, and also felt like I got the comforts of fantasy that I was looking for. And I really appreciate that in a book. You know, one thing I hadn't considered when making a big book summer is the fact that I would have to lift these. My tiny little arms, I don't know if I can do this. Okay, so these are the books I'm going to be trying to get through in June. I'm already mostly done with the first one. I'm gonna set this down. We'll see how far I get. I'm just excited to really get back into reading. I feel like the school year kind of drained me, and I'm excited to feel like I just have time for myself again this summer and see how far I get in this list of books. I'm excited to show you the second half of the prompts in July. I also have a video coming out where I'm wrapping up January, February, and March. I know that's almost useless at this point in the year. I filmed the video and then never got around to editing it. So you'll get to see the first part of the year, and then I'll very quickly after have a wrap up for April, May, and June. So I'm trying to do quarterly wrap ups this year is basically what I'm saying. So look forward to that. And I'll hopefully also use this summer to get back on track with reviews, because I feel like I love doing reviews, but I've not done one recently. So those are my goals for the summer. It's a lot to take on, but I gotta stay busy. So let me know what you're reading. Bye, friends.